TESL Basics for Language Volunteers, or TBLV for short, is a 7-week online training course for volunteers who are working with newcomers in ESL or LINC classes, but they also could be working in informal language training programs such as conversation circles or as one-on-one tutors.
L'AFIB signifie l'ABC du FLS pour les instructeurs bénévoles. Il s'agit en fait d'une adaptation du programme anglophone TBLV. Nous sommes en train de le promouvoir auprès des partenaires francophones qui utilisent déjà Avenu pour leurs cours de FLS et CLIC. Et étant donné que la francophonie, comme nous l'avons dit, est relativement minoritaire en dehors du Québec, les apprenants qui souhaitent apprendre le français ont peu d'occasions de pratiquer la langue ou d'être exposés au français. Donc, avoir une personne francophone supplémentaire avec qui échanger sera par conséquent très apprécié. Les bénévoles pourraient également apporter un soutien précieux dans les cours d'alphabétisation aux immigrants francophones qui n'ont pas eu l'occasion de bénéficier d'une éducation dans leur pays d'origine. Les instructeurs bénévoles pourraient constituer une solution pour résoudre le problème des listes d'attente pour les cours de français. Le programme s'adresse à divers bénévoles de tous âges, des Canadiens francophones à la retraite, aux étudiants francophones immigrants qui cherchent à acquérir une première expérience de travail canadienne.
The program is hosted on Avenue, but TBLV and LAFIB are actually delivered in an online or a blended setting by local volunteer coaches who facilitate the training for the volunteers in their own organization. In the short term, the outcomes of the training are that language volunteers gain knowledge and skills to support newcomers learning English. In the intermediate and long term, as a result of volunteers taking this training, newcomer clients will receive better support and make more gains in acquiring English. And on top of that, instructors who use volunteers in their ESL classrooms can better meet learner needs. And finally, program managers will experience less turnover in volunteers because the volunteers with the training that they've received will be part of the organization for a longer time. So overall, the quality of the language training that is offered improves because volunteers received training, instructors receive support, and managers experience less turnover from volunteers. There are 7 topics in the course. The first one is Introduction to Terminology and CLBs, then working with lower level learners and literacy learners. The third topic is providing action-oriented feedback and giving clear and positive suggestions and also practicing pronunciation. Then in week 4, the topic is using materials from the real world. So working with realia across the levels. Week 5, the topic is daily life and employment. And number 6 is Canadian culture and citizenship. But this topic also builds cultural competency for volunteers to work with the newcomers. And the last topic is remote volunteering. And we look at using high-tech and low-tech ways to work with newcomer learners. Each topic consists of core readings, a video, there's a super engaging activities and self-correcting quizzes, and there's a discussion forum. So those are all the components of the online program. The program is very efficient because it's offered online and it's self-paced. So volunteers can go through the materials when and where it is convenient for them. The program is flexible and it can be offered either fully online or blended. It can be offered as a whole training for 7 modules or different components, different parts. You could have volunteers only complete the topics that are most useful for their situation. So it's very efficient. Any nonprofit organization that offers language training to newcomers can partner with NLS to deliver this training. And once a local volunteer coach has been identified, we will prepare a TBLV course for that organization. And because the program is created actually under a Creative Commons license, the organization is free to adapt it to their own specific needs. The reason why this training is so effective is that it's facilitated by a trained volunteer coach, and that coach is an ESL professional. And they engage with the volunteers in the discussion forums. They can offer support and encouragement during, but also after the training. When we piloted the project in 2018, 2019, one of the challenges that we identified was that the level of computer literacy of the volunteer participants was not as high for everybody. And so we overcame this by adding a help topic. So a help topic for the volunteers. And we also included the option to take computer literacy training before starting TBLV. And that was added to the second pilot that we did in 2020. And so with this support, even volunteers who were new to online learning were able to complete the training.
Les défis que nous avons rencontrés dans la création de l'AFIB étaient distincts de ceux rencontrés par nos homologues anglophones de TBLV. Par exemple, il a fallu créer un module culturel orienté vers la francophonie canadienne et locale et trouver des ressources. En effet, étant donné que les francophones en dehors du Québec sont en situation minoritaire, il y a donc moins de ressources francophones disponibles.
In terms of the type of evaluations that we've conducted, we designed an evaluation model to get data for the purpose mainly of quality assurance. The main focus has been to inform the development of the volunteer training and the curriculum materials, and to measure the satisfaction of volunteers with the training and learners with the volunteer-led classes. We've been looking at volunteer trainees' input and feedback, the coaches' input and feedback, the learners' input and feedback, the language and settlement goals of the learners, the development of the curriculum materials, the satisfaction of the volunteer training of the volunteers, the volunteer-led classes, and the curriculum materials. We've also collected during the pilot some control data from surveys conducted before the training. And we've looked at effectiveness, quality, impact, transferability, and the sustainability of the program. We use surveys, interviews, and email follow-up. And in terms of the results, we have had 119 participants completing the survey. There have been more participants, but these are the numbers that we have in terms of who completed the survey. The large majority of volunteers felt prepared or very prepared to work with newcomers. That's 85%. 9 out of 10 agreed or strongly agreed that the training improved the understanding of teaching ESL to adult learners, that it increased their motivation to work with newcomers, that it helped them to share information, challenges, and suggestions, and that they would recommend the course to a colleague. The successful features that clients often cite, some point to the excellent content and the variety of information and tasks, the audio and the video clips, the links to extra resources and training. The forum format is also good because it provides people with good opportunities to share experiences. They appreciate that. And to also offer feedback and ideas, again, for continued development. But it's also really important, it seems, for volunteers to network and connect with other fellow volunteers. There's definitely also some evidence, some indirect evidence of high client uptake and retention. There are now many partner organizations across the country that deliver the TBLV training locally to the service providers, and they use local coaches to train the local volunteers, and that model has really worked. The partnership model ensures that the initial pilot target numbers are continuously exceeded by way of a growing partner network that is delivering the training.
Because the course, the TBLV course, is offered online, it really can be facilitated through Zoom sessions and self-paced learning. So it could be offered in a northern area, in rural or remote settings. The difficulty there might be that you do need to have a stable internet connection. My advice would be to test the course before facilitating it, just to make sure that it all works, even if you have low bandwidth. Certain activities or files may be downloaded and used offline on a computer that supports the software. And in the future, New Language Solutions may be able to develop handouts to accompany the course. So, for example, participants could complete quizzes, answer quiz questions on paper while watching a downloaded video. TBLV is really flexible, and it can be used for a variety of different client groups. It can be made to fit the needs of the volunteers and the learners that they are working with. So within one organization, there could be more than one coach, or a coach could have more than one course. For example, something that I've seen is a course for volunteers who are working with lower level learners, and another course for volunteers who work exclusively with online learners. One little bit of advice I would offer is to offer the course in cohorts. So groups of volunteers that all start at the same time and who are working with similar learners. If you do that, the TBLV coach can focus on issues that all of those volunteers may encounter, whether that's a common cultural background of the learners, a certain language level, or a learning environment. And then the coach can choose those units that the volunteers will benefit from most in each cohort. There's also one component on TBLV, which is called In Your Area. And here we offer a template. It's a Word file template with additional resources for each of the 7 topics in the TBLV program. But you can fill in the information so that it's specific to your location. And we ask partnering organizations to complete this template for their area and then to share it back with the TBLV coordinator. And they can also post it on the online coaches forum. And so far, we've collected a small bank of files that has been created by several organizations across Canada. So depending on where you live, there might already be a file for your location. If you try to explain to somebody why TBLV is important, I would say, look at the volunteers, right? The work that a volunteer does is very often invisible. But for a volunteer to be able to do their work with confidence and with skill, they need to be supported as well. So TBLV does that. It gives volunteers the knowledge and the skills so that they can work better with the language learners. And the trickle-down effect is huge, because that language learner will get better support in learning the language. So they might move through a language program more quickly. But for a language classroom instructor, having a volunteer who knows what they're doing is also super important, because it means they can do different kinds of activities. They might be doing separate discussion groups. And then for a manager, if they know that the volunteers that are working in their language program have that support and have had that training, that means less volunteer turnover. And so the quality of the language training just improves. But the volunteer needs to have that support. They need to be appreciated, because the work that a volunteer does is of immense importance.